The quantum entanglement array hummed with a frequency that made Alexander's teeth ache. He stood in the observation deck of the Meridian, humanity's first diplomatic vessel to breach the Kepler threshold, watching as the Z8 Trathi mothership materialized through layers of folded spacetime. The ship was massive, not in the crude sense of physical dimensions, but in the way it seemed to occupy more space than geometry should allow. "Remember the protocol," Commander Orla Chen said beside him, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her biometric readouts that Alexander could see on his neural interface. "We address the matriarch as sovereign of the stellar lattice. We maintain eye contact for exactly 2.3 seconds, no more, no less. We do not make physical gestures that could be interpreted as territorial claims." Alexander nodded, reviewing the 847-page cultural primer that had been directly uploaded to his hippocampus 3 weeks ago. First contact with the Z8 Trathi had occurred 6 months earlier, when one of their scout ships had intercepted a human mining operation in the Tau Ceti system. The encounter had been tense, but non-violent, largely because the Z8 Trathi operated on such an advanced technological plane that humanity's weapons registered as little more than interesting curiosities. The Z8 Trathi were old, not merely ancient, but old in a way that made human civilization seem like a brief electrical impulse in the cosmic nervous system. They had mastered technologies that violated what humanity had thought were fundamental laws, causality engines that could calculate probability branches and select preferred outcomes, matter compilers that assembled atoms with the precision of thoughts, and most disturbingly, what their translators inadequately called empathy matrices that could read emotional states across species barriers. "Docking sequence initiated," the ship's AI announced. "Atmospheric composition adjusting to Z8 Trathi preferences. Warning, oxygen levels dropping to 18%. Crew members activate supplemental breathing systems." Alexander felt the small device in his nasal cavity activate, feeding pure oxygen directly into his bloodstream. Beside him, Orla's jaw tightened, her tell when she was managing stress. They had trained together for 9 months in the diplomatic corps, learning to function as a perfect dyad. She was the primary negotiator, brilliant and unshakable. He was the scientific liaison, meant to explain humanity's technical capabilities without revealing how far behind they truly were. The airlock cycled open with a sound, like breaking crystal. The Z8 Trathi matriarch entered the observation deck, and Alexander's breath caught despite his training. She was approximately humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, a central torso, but the similarities ended there. Her skin was the color of deep space, a blue-black that seemed to absorb light, and across its surface moved patterns of bioluminescence that Alexander's translation implant immediately identified as a form of language more ancient than her spoken words. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a cranial structure that suggested her brain occupied not just her skull, but extended down into her upper thorax. Behind her came 3 attendants, smaller Z8 Trathi, whose luminescent patterns flickered in clear deference to their sovereign. "Greetings, sovereign of the stellar lattice," Orla said, her voice perfectly modulated, her bow exactly 30 degrees as protocol demanded. "We are honored by your presence aboard the Meridian." The matriarch's eyes, 4 of them, arranged in a bilateral pattern, fixed on Orla, then shifted to Alexander. When she spoke, her voice came not from her mouth, but seemed to emanate from the air itself, her words translated in real time by the quantum linguistic processor. "You are the ones who claim the 3 systems near the Carina anomaly," she said. It was not a question. "We have established research outposts in those systems, yes," Orla replied carefully. "We did not know they were of interest to the Z8 Trathi collective." The matriarch's bioluminescent patterns shifted to something Alexander's implant tagged as amused condescension. "Interest is not the correct framework. Those systems exist within the resonance field of our stellar engineering project. Your presence creates harmonic interference." Alexander felt his pulse quicken. The diplomatic brief had not mentioned any stellar engineering. If the Z8 Trathi were manipulating stars, actually manipulating stars. Then humanity's technological gap was even wider than feared. We would be willing to discuss relocation, Orla said smoothly. Perhaps we could negotiate access to alternative systems that would not interfere with your project. Negotiation. The matriarch's patterns shifted again, this time to something the implant couldn't quite translate, something between curiosity and something else. You use this word as if resources are scarce, as if existence is a competition for finite space. The three attendants' patterns flickered in what might have been laughter. Orla's biometrics spiked, a flash of frustration that she suppressed instantly. We mean no offense, Sovereign. We simply wish to find a solution that benefits both our species. The matriarch moved closer, and Alexander could feel the electromagnetic field she generated, a pressure against his skin like standing too close to a powerful speaker. Tell me, human female, do you understand the age of the HFY collective? Your civilization has existed for approximately 4.7 million years, Orla replied, pulling the data from her implant. 4,729,842 years, the matriarch corrected. In that time, we have encountered 3,847 species at your approximate developmental level. Of those, 3,721 have ceased to exist, not because we destroyed them, but because they could not adapt to a universe that cares nothing for their survival. The temperature in the room seemed to drop, though Alexander knew it was psychological. The question, the matriarch continued, is whether humanity will be number 3,722, or whether you possess something that makes you worth the energy expenditure of our attention. Alexander's mouth went dry. This wasn't diplomacy, it was an audition, a test to determine if humanity deserved to continue existing. Orla opened her mouth to respond, but the matriarch raised one long-fingered hand. No, I have heard enough from you, competent one. You follow your protocols well. You say what you have been trained to say. Those four eyes shifted to Alexander. You, male, the one whose heart rate has increased by 47 beats per minute. What do you say? Alexander's mind went blank. Every page of the diplomatic primer evaporated. He was supposed to defer to Orla, supposed to remain silent unless directly questioned about technical matters, supposed to. Well, he heard himself say, at least we're not number 3,721. Being number 3,722 means we survived longer than someone else. The words hung in the air, like a grenade with the pin pulled. Orla's face went white. The attendants' patterns flared in what was definitely alarm, and the matriarch's bioluminescent patterns exploded across her skin in a cascade of colors Alexander had never seen, colors his implant tagged as extreme interest, surprise, delight. Her mouth, a structure he hadn't even noticed before, opened to reveal rows of crystalline structures, and a sound emerged that was unmistakably laughter. Say that again, she commanded, taking another step closer. Exactly as you said it. Alexander's brain screamed at him to apologize, to backtrack, to defer to Orla. But the matriarch's four eyes were fixed on him with an intensity that made looking away impossible. At least we're not number 3,721, he repeated, his voice somehow steady. Being number 3,722 means we survived longer than someone else, even if it's just marginally longer. The matriarch's laughter intensified, and her attendants' patterns shifted from alarm to something like wonder. Do you understand what you have done, human male? The matriarch asked, her patterns now cycling through what the implant tagged as profound satisfaction. Probably ended humanity's chance at survival, Alexander offered weakly. No, she said, and her hand moved to touch his shoulder, a gesture that made Orla gasp, because physical contact was strictly forbidden in ZH-Rathai High Protocol. You have demonstrated humor in the face of extinction. You have taken my words, meant to provoke fear and submission, and transformed them into a logical observation that undermines their power. Her patterns shifted again, and this time Alexander's implant provided a perfect translation, recognition of peer intellect. In 4.7 million years, the matriarch said, 3,847 species. Do you know how many made me laugh? Alexander shook his head. 7, she said. You are the 8th, and the only one to do so within the first 30 seconds of meeting me. She released his shoulder and turned to Orla. Your male companion is correct. You are not number 3,722. Any species capable of finding absurdity in existential threat possesses the cognitive flexibility to survive in a universe that does not care. The 3 systems are yours. We will adjust our stellar engineering project. She moved toward the airlock, then paused. Send me this one again when you establish your embassy. He is more interesting than he knows. The Z8 Trathai departed, leaving Orla and Alexander standing in stunned silence. Finally, Orla turned to him, her expression unreadable. You just saved humanity by making a joke. I didn't mean to joke, Alexander said honestly. I just said what I was thinking. Never stop, Orla replied, and for the first time in 9 months of training together, she smiled, not the diplomatic smile, but something genuine. Apparently, not thinking is humanity's secret weapon. Outside the viewport, the Z8 Trathai mothership folded itself back into impossible geometries and vanished, leaving humanity's first diplomatic mission a complete, unexpected success.